This is T West. Welcome to AfroSynergy, news and information on Africa and the African diaspora. What I am about to share with you gives good, firm motive as to why the American senators, 93 out of 7 of them, would vote on a draconian bill, the Defense Authorization Act, which would target millions of American citizens. We also have them voting again on the SOPA bill, which is to remove the ability of those of us like myself and others who provide information such as this to the masses, millions in America and around the world. They want to cut off that link and keep you in the dark, and then start carrying out their draconian programs against the American people, as they have been doing against millions in other countries of the world. Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Somalia, just to name a few. The following is a report from Truthaholics blog entitled, "China Joins Russia and Orders Military to Prepare for World War III." A Graham Ministry of Defense bulletin issued to Prime Minister Putin and President Medvedev today states that President Hu, who has agreed in principle that the only way to stop the West's aggression led by the United States is through direct and immediate military action, and that the Chinese leader has ordered his naval forces to prepare for warfare. Hu's call for war joins Chinese Rear Admiral and prominent military commentator Zhang Zhozhong, who likewise warned this past week that China will not hesitate to protect Iran even with a third world war. China gets most of its oil today from Iran. And Russian General Nikolai Makarov, who grimly stated last week, "I do not rule out local and regional armed conflicts developing into a large-scale war, including using nuclear weapons." The raising of global tensions between the East and the West was exploded this past fortnight when Russian Ambassador Vladimir Titorenko and 2 of his aides returning from Syria were brutally assaulted and put in the hospital by Qatar's security forces, aided by the CIA and the British MI6 agents attempting to gain access to diplomatic pouches containing information from Syrian intelligence that the United States was flooding Syria and Iran with the same U.S.-backed Al-Qaeda mercenaries who toppled the Libyan government. Now, this is something that I've indicated in the past, that the United States and its allies, its European allies, were working with Al-Qaeda in Libya to overthrow the Libyan government, and we see the same thing happening in Syria. So this Russian ambassador was beaten up by these security forces in Qatar. Now, Qatar has supplied thousands of troops to Libya that helped in the overthrow of the Libyan government, including Qatari tanks and other weaponry. Further evidence in these diplomatic pouches, this bulletin says, reveals that the United States is preparing an ultimate solution to the Middle East crisis should nuclear war break out by attacking Syria and Iran with lethal biological agents intended to kill tens of millions of innocent civilians. The discovery of the biological agent to be used by the West was revealed a fortnight ago by Dutch virologist Ron Foschier of the Erasmus Medical Center in the Netherlands, who led a team of scientists that discovered that a mere 5 mutations to the avian flu virus was sufficient to make it spread far more easily and would make it the most lethal killer of mankind ever invented. Should the United States begin an attack utilizing this deadly virus, this bulletin continues, its most likely method of delivery would be via its RQ-170 Sentinel drone, which is operated by the CIA. Now, as you may know, this particular type of drone was taken down and captured by the Iranians a couple of weeks ago. These frightening assessments of future U.S. actions against its enemies were revealed in this bulletin based upon Russian intelligence analysts' examination of the RQ-170 Sentinel drone brought down over Iran's territory last week by the Russian-made Avtobaza ground-based electronic intelligence and jamming system used against this unmanned aerial vehicle with little damage, and that showed it to be equipped with a sophisticated aerosol delivery system. Important to note is that the Western powers' first use of a deadly flu virus to destroy their enemies and to overthrow the established global order was first used less than a century ago in 1918, when the Spanish flu variant was unleashed at the ending of World War I and killed an estimated 500 million people, which represented fully 3% of the world's entire population at that time. Archived KGB files on the Spanish flu pandemic have always stated that this deadly virus was bioengineered by U.S. military scientists who used as their guinea pigs American soldiers who were the first recorded victims and were stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas. To fully understand the underlying reasons behind the United States and its Western allies' push for total global war was recently detailed by the top American investigative journalist Greg Hunter, whose shocking in-depth report titled "Is the World Spinning Out of Control?" revealed that the entire edifice of the Western economic system is crumbling under the weight of over $100 trillion in debt no one is able to pay, and wherein he warned, never in the history has the world been this close to total financial chaos and nuclear war at the same time. Sadly, but always, the American people are not being allowed to know the horrific future their elite leaders are planning for them, a situation made even worse this past week when the United States Senate passed a new law by a 93-7 vote that is warned will destroy America for all time by giving total control of this once free nation over to its military forces to destroy their Constitution. As we noted in our previous report, it is worth mentioning again the words of the American founding father Thomas Jefferson, who warned his fellow citizens over 200 years ago about what is happening today by saying, "I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allowed private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations who will grow up around will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered." The words of America's Thomas Jefferson. Again, this is a report by Truthaholics, and in the video description you can find a link to this article. You have also noticed in the last video that I have shared with you some of the content of the new Defense Appropriation Act voted on by the U.S. Senate in favor 93-7. This is T West with Afro Synergy.